that in Southeast Asian countries, between 37 and 80% of all rice production is lost. Colin Brown helped write the report for the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. He says a lot of rice is lost because of the way it is harvested, stored, and transported. The developed world also wastes food. The report says more efficient farming methods ensure that more food reaches markets. Still, Colin Brown says millions of tons of food are thrown away because it is past its sell-by date or for other reasons. He says a lot of food is thrown away because it no longer looks good and not because it is no longer good to eat. A spokesman for a group that represents supermarkets in Britain says the big food stores are not to blame. He says they are only following European Union marketing rules. The stores have been pushing for an easing of those rules. He says that in 2009, stores succeeded in getting a number of rules relaxed. Many aid organizations welcomed the report. They say it shows how much food is being wasted at a time when millions of people do not get enough to eat. The group Save the Children says there is enough food in the world to feed every child. Yet, 2.3 million children die every year as a result of hunger. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
Report. Generations of newcomers have brought their tastes and sometimes their farming skills to American soil. These include refugees who have gotten help from government agencies and private groups to grow crops on community farms. These farms and gardens can be found across the country. Bantu refugees from Somalia helped start the New Roots Community Farm in San Diego, California. Many of them did not have much money or much fresh produce in their lives. Some, especially young people, were eating unhealthy fast food. The refugees wanted to grow their own food. Cambodians and other groups in San Diego were in a similar situation. A community farm seemed like a good answer. The refugees got help from the group that had resettled many of them, the International Rescue Committee. But getting a permit to use some open land owned by the city took about 2 years. The New Roots Community Farm opened in 2009. The farm is almost 1 hectare. People can learn how to grow foods from back home, as well as traditional American crops. The growers sell some of their produce at a marketplace and to restaurants. One result of the community farm is that people are learning about foods from other people's homelands. First Lady Michelle Obama, who has her own vegetable garden at the White House, visited the farm in San Diego last year. A group called the Somali Bantu Zigwa Community has operated a farm for several years near Boise, Idaho. Dadiri Nuro is the group's president. He says, "We are farming people. We like to farm." Mr. Nuro came to the United States in 2004. He and his family had been living in a refugee camp in Kenya. He says more than 15 crops are grown without pesticides at the farm, including potatoes, tomatoes, kale, lettuce, cabbage, onion, and shallots. The farm also grows 2 kinds of corn. Mr. Nuru explains that we have African corn and we have American corn. Americans, they like soft corn, and the Bantu, we like hard corn. The community group sells some of its produce at a farmer's market and has now bought storage freezers. The group has also donated food to other communities. The Idaho State Office for Refugees has advice on its website about starting a community garden. You can find a link at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Report. A United Nations report predicts that world rice production will be higher this year than last year. The report is from the Food and Agriculture Organization. The FAO says the global rice harvest should be almost 2% higher this year, mainly because of increased production in Asia. Large gains are expected in Bangladesh, Burma, China, India, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Thailand. Also, the FAO predicts a recovery for rice harvests in Africa. Production increases are expected to be led by Mali, Nigeria, and Senegal. In other parts of the world, the report predicts that rice harvests will be lower in the European Union and the United States. 2 reasons for this are unusually dry weather and falling rice prices, which have led some farmers to plant other crops. Smaller rice harvests also are expected in Latin America and the Caribbean. Concepcion Calpe is an economist with the FAO. She says good harvests in Asia will lead to reduced demand in the global rice trade this year. Demand in global trade is expected to fall 900,000 tons to about 34 million metric tons. Ms. Calpe says one reason is because a lot of the major importers like Indonesia or the Philippines or even Bangladesh have harvested very good crops. Another reason is because some of them, like the Philippines, have set limits on how much they are willing to import. The FAO says prices for rice have stayed high for several reasons. These include higher costs for fuel, fertilizer, and in some areas, labor. One country where prices remain high is China. Concepcion Calpe says the high prices raise questions about official Chinese reports of record harvests. In Thailand, a government price support program has led rice exports to fall by 20% to less than 8 million tons. The program keeps prices for Thai rice exports above market prices. As a result, the FAO says exporters like Australia, India, and Vietnam have captured a larger market share. Ms. Calpe notes that Burma could become a major exporter of rice. Many Western governments have eased trade restrictions on Burma recently because of its efforts at political and economic reform. Foreign investment and increased productivity in Cambodia might also help that country export more rice. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read, listen, and learn English with more news about agriculture at voaspecialenglish.com.
Agriculture Report. Call it recession gardening or a product of the local foods movement. But whatever the reason, more Americans are growing some of their own food. Or at least they are trying to. Many need advice from experts like the master gardeners at the University of Maryland Extension Service. The Extension Service has launched Grow It, Eat It. This campaign is a response to what they call the huge new demand for information and help with home gardens. Master gardeners from throughout the state are helping less experienced people learn how to work the land. Food gardeners can join a network and put their garden on a map on the Extension Service website. The goal: 1 million food gardeners in Maryland producing their own affordable, healthy food. The current count of food gardeners is around 5,000 statewide. Nationally, sales of garden supplies increased last year as people started or expanded food gardens. Sales rose 30% at Burpee, a major seller of seeds. Shannon Dill is the extension agent for Talbot County, Maryland. She says the weak economy is not the only reason people are trying to grow their own food to save money. Prices for fruits and vegetables at the store are up. Shannon Dill finds that growing food at home usually costs less than buying it at stores or restaurants. She also finds that people seem to be staying home more, so they have more time to work in the garden. And she says people like to know where their food is coming from. But sometimes people choose the wrong plants for the